3:01. This is John Barber, and I'm going to call our Codi meeting to order today. Just a couple of reminders as we meet. One is make sure when you want to contribute to the conversation to say your last name before you start speaking, so everyone knows who is speaking. I'd also like to welcome some special guests we have today. Mayor India Kincannon is with us today. Welcome. Thanks so much for joining us today. And our Director of Housing and Neighborhood Development, my good friend Kevin Dubose, is in the house. And also we've got Jeff Strand. And is Tom here as well? Yes, Tom Jedlowski from Tennessee Disability Coalition have joined us here today. So welcome. Thanks so much for being part of our meeting. At this time, I think we need to do roll call. So I'm going to turn it over to Misha Zubak for that.
Thank you, Barber. Daniel Alexander.
Alexander here.
Thank you. Ashley Wells Ajinkia. John Barber.
Here.
Thank you. Hillary Brooks. Nancy Carter. George Childress.
Here.
Thank you. Karen Lowe.
Here.
Thank you. Aquila Maxwell.
Here.
Thank you. Maddie Matheson.
Here, ma'am.
Thank you. Kanya Mall.
Mall here.
Thank you. Paul Robertson.
Here.
Thank you. Monica Shimon Orr.
Here.
Thank you. Joel Simmons.
Here.
Thank you. Stacy Spangler.
Here.
Thank you. Jessica Villanueva. And Nancy Welch.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay.
Looks like we have 12, which would be quorum.
Excellent. Barbara, again, you've all received copies of June's minutes, so we need to approve those. So I'll just need someone to make a motion to approve June minutes.
This is Simmons. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from June.
This is Maddie. I second.
Great. Is anyone opposed to adopting those minutes? Great. Those minutes are hereby adopted. That motion carries. And so at this time, we're going to welcome Tom Jedlowski and Jeff Strand, who hang on. In a second, we're going to do that after Misha stops me.
Barbara, I apologize. Matheson, I do not believe that you are here in June, which means that you cannot second the minutes.
Darn parliamentary procedure. So someone who was at that meeting.
This is Low. I will second.
Excellent.
Thank you.
And again, anyone opposed? Okay, that motion carries. So now, at this time, I'd like to welcome our presenters for today, Tom Jedlowski and Jeff Strand from the Tennessee Disability Coalition. Take it away.
Thank you very, very much. This is Tom Jedlowski. I am the Director of Communications and Technology for the Tennessee Disability Coalition. For those of you maybe not fully versed in what the coalition does, but we are the preeminent disability advocacy organization in the state. We do a lot of policy liaisons at the Capitol and work really hard to pass meaningful legislation that helps to improve and in many cases protect the rights of Tennesseans with disabilities. So I'm very thankful to Ms. Misha and Ms. Stephanie, whom I've known for years. So always a friendly face and happy to be here and engage with this committee. I actually serve on what we call the Mayor's Advisory Council, in Nashville. And I'll tell y'all, this is a good turnout. We don't have a turnout like this every month. So this is impressive. Congratulations to our East Tennessee friends and advocates. Special thanks to Mayor Kincannon for joining us. Our mayor is usually not on our call, so that is very exciting to see as well. But yeah, so I brought Jeff on because last year we really looked at this aggregate situation of a confluence of different factors that impact working adults with disabilities in the state of Tennessee. Oftentimes these issues tend to get talked about in silos, housing, transportation, and we sort of tried to take a collective approach to say, okay, what does this really mean to people who are, trying to work in Tennessee and may experience disability in their lives? And Jeff, whom is a brilliant person and scholar and former special education teacher himself, and if I may, a real policy nerd, immediately took on this challenge and jumped in and pulled this amazing data and came up with a cumulative grade for the state of Tennessee of a D+, which we were told by advocates was generous on our part. But nonetheless, we are excited to talk about it, excited to talk about some possibilities and feedback for 23, and excited to take your questions. But because we have our bona fide policy expert on this call, I will defer to Jeff to answer any questions that you all may have. Has everyone seen the scorecard?
I have not.
Okay.
John, sorry.
All right, Jeff, I'll go ahead and share my screen if I can. Oh, he put the link in the, okay. The link is in the chat for anyone who needs it.
This is Zubak Jazowski. If you'd like to share your screen, you have capabilities to do so.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. All right, anyone on the call that would like an audio description? Nope, okay, great. So we looked at several different areas: housing, transportation, medical debt, the home healthcare worker crisis, or DSPs, sales tax burden, employment, affordability of care, and support for family caregivers who often have to carry that burden when providers are in short supply. So we looked across these different areas and then averaged them and came up with a final grade of a D+. Jeff, I thought maybe if you don't mind, maybe kind of just unpacking some of these grades a little bit. I think the interesting story here is we knew housing and affordable housing was a challenge across the state. We did not know that it was, there's only 15 counties that come to being close to being affordable for people with disabilities. So Jeff, if you don't mind, take it away.
Yeah, this is Jeff Strand. Thanks everybody for having me. I like Tom's characterization of our organization as preeminent. It makes me feel very nice inside. Policy nerd, absolutely true. And
do you care to give the interpreter 1 second to get the screen set up? I can't see the clients. I'm trying to get it set. I don't have enough time. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm happy to pause for as long as we need.
Perfect. Go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So housing is really where we started at here. And this data comes from a variety of sources, but is really founded in some research that was done by a professor at UT Knoxville. Of course, now Dr. Stephen McGarity, who actually works in the social work department here in Nashville. He did a nationwide paper that looked at the extra cost of living with a disability and found that it cost 27% more income for a person with a disability in the United States to achieve the same standard of living as someone without a disability. And standard of living is a metric used in academia, but it is what it sounds like. It's What are you able to do that you want to do? What are you unable to do that you want to do? And so he did his doctor stuff and pulled the stats and found that it cost 27% more income to achieve that same standard of living. We called him up, said, that's great, thanks for doing that. And he asked, would you like me to run the numbers for Tennessee? And we said, yes, please. And he found that it was almost double that in Tennessee. It cost 51% more income to achieve the same standard of living as someone without a disability in Tennessee. So we took that number and applied it to housing. And we said that anybody who could keep their mortgage payment under the 33% housing burden barrier, it's the HUD, Housing and Urban Development, establishes that 33% number. Anybody who has to pay more than their income for that is considered housing burdened. Anybody who has to pay less is not. So we put that as the threshold, and then looked at mortgage payments per county on an average house, looked at average or median income, and applied that extra 51% to that median income to represent people with disabilities, and found that 80 of the 95 were unaffordable. And for those that are also policy nerds, those are 2021 numbers. Plan is to update them again for 2023. But that's kind of where we started with this scorecard and said, if this is what it looks like for housing, what can we say about what it looks like for these other things? And I can't say that all of these are as data driven as the housing is, but that is one of our goals this year when we produce our 2023 scorecard, is to really be both data, empirical data, and policy driven in evaluating these kind of areas of living. So does anybody have any questions about housing or how we got that, or suggestions about how to better interpret that, or a better metric of housing affordability? Stephanie, I see your hand.
Thank you. This is Cook. When you say 80 of 95 Tennessee counties are too expensive, is Knox County one of those? Do you know those 15 counties?
You can kind of see in the graphic a little bit. I could pull them quick, but they're really just the northwest corner of Tennessee, and a couple of, And so what that really tracks on here is that housing is inexpensive in those counties, but they're also some of our most impoverished counties. So when we think about who lives there and how many people can live there, it's a smaller number than the rest. And I think that really impacted the data.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Right. Does anybody have any thoughts, or is, I was hoping to as much kind of explain what was going on as get some feedback from this. Is this a good metric for housing? I'd also consider doing rental housing or the availability. Another one we've been working on is the availability of affordable and accessible housing. So this is just straight affordable. Where is the accessible housing, or what's our shortage across the state? Is that better, worse? Thoughts?
Barbara here. One of the focuses of this group, of this mayor's council, is talking about universal design and accessible housing. So I'm curious, when you use that term, kind of how you're defining it and how that would work into this accessibility.
So when I talk about accessibility for housing specifically, I look at the HUD. There are 3 tiers of accessibility, where they say tier 3 is, or HUD level 3 is potentially modifiable for wheelchair access. So has no interior steps. And there's a couple more things, no bumps between rooms, but it doesn't necessarily have to have an accessible entrance. That's where that potentially modifiable comes. And this is where we have to extrapolate a little bit. That's a national number. We just have to assume that that's the same here in Tennessee. And that's 33% of the housing stock is potentially modifiable. And then it gets less accessible from there. So level 2 has accessibility features. So it's all of level 3, and then accessibility features like shower bar grabs and things like that. And then that's about 5%. And then level 1, which is the most accessible, the most accessible and doesn't need modification, is less than 1% of the housing stock. So when I say affordable and accessible, I'm giving the state the benefit of the doubt and just going with level 3, so a third of them. Not that they deserve the benefit of the doubt, but
Right. Barbara, again, I just, it feels like it doesn't really matter if it's affordable, if it's not accessible.
right. And I should have pulled this data. But I think I think it's 2021 data again. There's a shortage of about 16,000 housing units in the state. And by 2040, that number is going to be up more like 35,000.
Just this is American Cannon. When you give that figure 16,000 shortage for the whole state, because I mean, I've heard figures like that for just Knoxville. I mean,
so that would be affordable and accessible.
Okay.
The affordable number is much bigger, but
okay.
so what I looked at, and the need for it is the CDC says approximately 15% of people with disabilities in Tennessee have a mobility disability. So I took a look at how many people are going to need these are low-income renters with a disability, and then said 15% of those. So I'm shooting for the smallest number, but there are much bigger numbers that probably exist.
And does this?
I have a question.
Sure.
Go ahead. I think that's Shim and Orr.
Shim and Orr here. I just wanted to comment about so far, what I'm hearing is wonderful, but I'm a little bit concerned. Affordable housing that are in like a good area with low crime rates, is that possible? Because the reason I ask, it's just so much time I spent so much time with deaf blind people who are in their homes every week on the internet. And when I go visit them, I notice that the rent is lower. And I think that that's great. And that's really exciting. But the problem is that their internet or their area is.
The website's not updated.
Thank you. The website's not updated. So a short story, we found an apartment and they told me it was really possible to get it about 55 a month, 7,500, excuse me. And but it's in a very bad high crime area. So then they kind of dropped it off. And that was the concern there, was the crime rate, because it wasn't included. Is that something that we can talk about with affordable housing?
This is Jeff, or this is Strand. It's something we should talk about. I'm going to give myself away a little bit here. That's a little beyond my statistical chops. But I will say that there are quite a bit of folks out there doing research that looks at that. So one of the most prominent is Raj Chetty, Dr. Raj Chetty. He's from Harvard, and he pioneered the Opportunity Atlas, which looks at the relative markers of social deprivation, he calls them. So crime, the quality of schools, access to key resources, and what it means for people who grow up there, and how much more you would make as an adult there versus someplace that had more or fewer markers of social deprivation. So you can kind of extrapolate from there, where is a high quality area, an area of high opportunity, and where's a high opportunity or an area of low opportunity. But I will say, I wish I could account for it, but that's, I can handle Excel spreadsheets. That is like a geography mapping type of question.
Mayor Concanon, you had something else?
Yeah, I think that's a interesting point. I just wanted to speak to the fact that the vast majority of our city is very safe relative to many other cities. I mean, we don't have zero crime, but our crime rate is not horrible. There are places where we have crime, but even in those hot spots, the vast majority of households and residents are law abiding, and it's very concentrated among a few people. We know this because we've studied this and tracked the data, and KPD and other city entities like the Office of Community Safety and Empowerment are working really hard to reduce the crime that we do have. And most, knock on wood, most of our crimes are not random acts of violence. It is, people involved in crime killing other people involved in crime. And then the other kinds of crime is violent crime is domestic, intimate partner violence, which again is not neighborhood or geographically focused at all. So there's a lot of misperceptions sometimes. There are certainly neighborhoods that have not seen a lot of investment, but we're working on addressing those because I think they should be safe for the residents who are there now, whether they have disabilities or whatever. That's something we're working on. But anyhow, it's a good question. But I do think that Knoxville is a very safe city, and I just wanted to put that out there.
And this is Strand. I just kind of want to build off of that and say this is something that I wish I could map and measure and show. There are more data intelligent people out there that probably already do this kind of thing, but that is generally the trade-off with affordable housing. It's not just crime, but it's access to public transportation, it's access, to healthcare, it's access to good food. And that's unfortunately a universal problem across this country, is that affordability usually means that you have to sacrifice the quality of that. And there are some answers. There's no silver bullet for it, but it tends to be the case. And folks who live in affordable housing know that all too well.
Barbara here. Joel Simmons has his hand up.
Yeah, this is Simmons. I had to step away for a minute, so if I am treading over coverage, it's already been done. My apologies. But I know that I have talked, and I know Stephanie's seen this multiple times, and it's strictly from people with mobility issues, especially people in wheelchairs, that they go to look at places that are touted as accessible, and they basically call it accessible if you can get in the door. They can't get in and turn a wheelchair around in the bathroom. The kitchen's not able to use. And I get it. There's some older things, but I think maybe we look in the future if there's any federal or city dollars going into to some of it. But that was one of the things I was wanting to point out to Knoxville. Obviously, this problem's all across our state. If you're looking at the housing and everything, getting an F, except for a small corner of the northwest part of Tennessee. But yeah, that's one of the things that I heard repeatedly through volunteer work with different organizations, from Patricia Neal to other resource centers and all. But people have gone to look at one, and the rent was right. They can afford the $500 or $550 a month, but it wasn't really an accessible apartment. It was touted affordable and accessible, but they could get in the front door, and that was about it. They couldn't move into the apartment.
Yeah, and that's the limit. This is Strand. That's the limit of those HUD categorizations, is that when they say accessible, it is the most basic of accessible features, and it's pretty much get in the house and no steps within the house, and that can technically qualify you as accessible.
Barbara here. Cook, you put your hand up.
This is Cook. Yeah, I want to, born and raised in Knoxville, I have to praise some of our partners here too. Our mayor now has a group of people. Our departmental director, Mr. DeBose, is on there, who are dedicated to looking at and exploring more affordable and accessible housing options. This is something that we have seen our department does, receives public input for our PUD annual and 5-year plans. And so affordable and accessible housing has been something that has been increasingly coming to us as a need. And we've been really trying hard to plan for that. Codi has a strategic planning group for universal design, and they've talked for a year and a half on ways to better educate the public, builders, community members, encouraging better access when we're building housing. And KCDC is a huge provider of affordable housing here in Knoxville, and they have been renovating a lot of their properties. And I know when they renovate, they increase the level of accessibility. And so I don't want anybody to leave here thinking that little to nothing is being done in Knoxville, because we all have a keen eye and ear for it. We're just continually looking at more opportunities to create more affordable and accessible housing.
Yes, this is Carter. I apologize for being late, and I've joined the meeting.
This is Zubak. Thank you so much, Carter.
And this is Strand, and I want to say one of the updates to our scorecard this year, and it should be noted that it's a statewide scorecard, so these will be state policy suggestions, will include homework, which, as I've said already, are state policy suggestions for improving the grades from last year. So I haven't run the numbers this year, but since last year when we ran these numbers, there's been no substantial state effort to increase affordable or accessible housing. So our homework this year, if anybody's interested in hearing, are potentially 4 things. I'm not sure how many we're going to include on the scorecard itself. It's got to fit and whatnot. But in 2018, the Tennessee General Assembly passed a preemption on the use of zoning to impact the construction of housing. And what they're really trying to get at was Nashville's policy, which was a voluntary policy that said, if you're a developer and you're building an apartment building, you can have certain zoning exemptions. So you could build a taller building, you could have a smaller front yard, you could have less parking, that kind of thing, in exchange for affordable housing. And so the preemption from the state said no city or municipality can pass anything like that, even if it's voluntary. So one of the homework options here is get rid of that. Pretty simple. Tennessee doesn't have any source of income protections. 49% of voucher holders are 65 or older or have a disability, which means that if you go to rent a place, they can take a look and see that you have a voucher and deny you because of that. And that's going to disproportionately harm aging folks and folks with disabilities. There's a bill proposed in the General Assembly last year called the Tennessee Rural and Workforce Housing Tax Credit. It's complicated. It's like the federal LIHTC program, low income housing tax credit, but for the state, and really focused on rural areas, but also workforce level housing, which is a tier more expensive than affordable housing. And then there's the establishment of a state trust for the building of affordable and accessible housing. They have one in Nashville called the Barnes Fund, which is successfully created, since its inception, a decade and a half ago, 15,000 units. Accessible, I don't know, but affordable, yes. So those are the options that we're considering for this, if we're looking proactive.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. Do we have any more questions for these guys? American Cannon?
Yeah, this is American Cannon. Thanks for that overview and those potential policy or recommendations for how to improve the score are well taken, particularly the preemption. People ask us all the time, can we do this incentive or this carrot, this stick, and we have very few tools available to us. And I'm not sure why the state would pass a law that prevents us from doing an incentive towards affordability or accessibility. That's just voluntary. It seems contrary to our collective hopes for having more housing that's affordable and accessible. So I'm all for that. And if we can get the people on this council and your colleagues across the state, including in rural areas, because the legislature is a lot of strong vocal members from more rural parts of the state. So if we can be really strong collective voice on this need, that would be good. Also, just FYI for council members and for our presenter today, Jeff Strand, we don't have as much money as the Barnes Fund, but we did, since I've taken office, started the Affordable Rental Fund. It augments a fund that was started by the previous mayor and just made it have a dedicated local funding source. So I'm looking forward to, we've spent more even than we anticipated, allocated a minimum of $5 million a year for 10 years, but the past few years, I think we did 8 million and 7 million. So, and we're also looking to make it so there'll be an instrument so private philanthropists who want to help with housing can donate to this fund and still get a tax deduction, even though it's the city, not a 501c3. So we're working through thinking about augmenting. We have a lot of generous people in Knoxville. Everyone knows we need more housing. So we want to connect the dots there because the city can only put in so much federal dollars. We push those towards housing, of course, but if we could tap into some of the private philanthropic dollars in a way that addresses some of these needs of accessibility and affordability, that's certainly a goal for the future. Right, Kevin? Yeah, okay.
And this is Strand. I just want to say thanks for having me on here. I'm going to put my contact information in the chat. Feel free to reach out about the scorecard or anything else. Like Tom said, I'm a policy nerd. I'm happy to always talk about it.
And I am so grateful for the opportunity to join all of you and see this vibrant, thriving group of individuals, and super excited. I just wanted to share, I don't know if this committee ever hosts mayoral forums, but do you? Okay, wonderful. That's wonderful. We are hosting one tomorrow in Nashville for all 11 candidates. And as people who have hosted one before, you know, they tend to have a little bit of a different flair. We know our needs and we know how to articulate them. And we are going to live stream it because we know transportation is a challenge for many people in our community, especially here in Nashville. So if you all want to join or you register, I did pop the link in the chat. If you're interested to just sort of see what we're doing tomorrow. It'll be at 5 to 6:30 Central, so 6 to 7:30 Eastern tomorrow. If you're interested in hearing what the Nashville mayoral candidates have to say about disability issues in our city, it should be an interesting evening. Having spoken to a few of their campaigns, there's a lot to learn. On all sides. So we're excited. That's what our committee does. You know, we advise the mayor and provide counsel and try to give diverse perspectives on policy. And so we are, you know, we're interested to hear what these candidates say and interested to work with the victor come September. So we're looking forward to it.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Barbara. Again, you can see Zubak put in the chat some info about our mayoral forum, which is coming.
Yeah,
soon.
absolutely.
In fact, that's on the agenda for this meeting here in just a few minutes. So thank you both so much for joining us today. It's a real pleasure to hear from you guys about what's going on in the rest of the state. You are absolutely welcome to hang out with us for the rest of the meeting. And if not, I hope you have a great day.
I have a mayoral forum to prep for tomorrow, but I am very, very grateful and look forward and wish you a good rest of your meeting and rest of your day. Take care.
Great. Barbara, again, at this time, we have our member advocacy portion. which today is going to be provided by Nancy Welch from CAC.
Yes, I am the program manager of Volunteer Assisted Transportation, which is one of many programs here at Knox County CAC. It's called Volunteer Assisted Transportation. So what we do is we provide assisted transportation to Knox County residents that need more one-on-one assistance when they go places. So what that looks like is a volunteer volunteers their time. They pick up the person in a vehicle, help them in and out of their home, into the vehicle, and then to their destination of where they're going. They will actually stay with the person at their destination, help them out of the car. Door-through-door assistance is what we provide. And we help with maybe communication challenges, filling out paperwork, just kind of understanding. Maybe sometimes they may have a visual impairment, maybe they have dementia or other disabilities, mobility issues. We do provide wheelchair transportation. This is a non-emergency transportation that we provide, and it's greatly needed here in our area, and some of the surrounding counties do have it in their counties. But it's to help people stay more active and independent. Just because they've given up the keys or they can no longer travel alone, this helps them be able to get to where they need to go and get that medical care that they need, or get to the grocery store, pick up their pharmacy prescriptions that they need. They can get to places safely, and then we stay with them and make sure that they are getting there safely. And then how our program works, a lot of times it's word of mouth, or our car has our name and our number all over it. So we have a rolling billboard, so to speak. So people see our information and they do referrals, or they call and ask for information. A lot of times caseworkers will refer people. So if you know somebody that needs this service that can no longer travel safely alone, that's what this service is for. They need to fill out an application. There is not an application fee. There is not a membership fee. However, once the person is approved, they do have to call us in advance to put their request in to wherever they need to go, and it can be wherever. And then a volunteer will pick and choose when they are available that they can take this person to wherever they're going. Our drivers are screened. They're all volunteers and they are screened, and that's to make the senior, the person that we're picking up that has a mobility issue, that they can trust that person that's coming to pick them up. It makes them feel safe, and we train our volunteers with orientation and do all those background screenings to reassure everyone that's involved. There is a small fee for our service that they have to pay, but the main thing about our program is we stay with the clients that we take to where they're going. It's door-through-door transportation, and we stay with them and make sure that they're safely to where they need to go, and then safely get back home as well. Is there any questions?
Barbara here, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
They take them there and then they don't go in with them, right?
They won't go into a doctor's appointment with them. You know, we do respect their privacy, but they'll help them fill out their paperwork, and then they'll wait in the waiting room for them.
Okay.
We've had some issues, you know, doctors, sometimes they get overwhelmed, and we could maybe stay with them in the room while they're waiting for the doctor to come in and then step out. So they don't feel so scared or alone, but then we would step out and give them their privacy.
Right. Thank you.
This is Carter, and I have a question, please.
Yes.
Of course, you know, I'm visually impaired, and I still am capable of riding cat lift. So that's how I get around Knoxville to work and all. But the question I have is, like, on instances where I would have to have, say, a colonoscopy, or any instance where you would be put to sleep, do you provide transportation for such times as that?
We definitely do. We do those one-time transportations for folks where if they're having colonoscopies, or if they're having an eye surgery or cataracts or something like that, we can definitely do that. I'm going to put my email in the chat so that you guys, if you have any questions, you can email me directly. And I can send you an application, or if you know someone that needs the service, definitely pass the information on.
Well, this is Carter again, so I do need to fill out an application prior to the need.
Yes, and because you have to, it's a, it's a process to get enrolled, but it's also, if you needed it next week, I wouldn't be able to take you. There's quite a great need for our service. Everybody's, trying to get to where they need to go, and we have a great need. Volunteer wise, I need volunteers too, because COVID really has hurt us on that, and folks are now back traveling and doing their social thing too, so having to fill in those gaps. So sometimes it's difficult to meet every need, so you have to call in advance and plan for that.
All right, thank you.
Well, thank you so much. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, or if you don't get my email out of the chat, Misha has my contact information. We can always get in contact with each other. Well, I appreciate you. And I guess we will move on to our further business of our meeting. Thank you.
Awesome. Barbara here. Thanks so much. That is a wonderful service that you provide to the community. And it's really this is just my own little sales pitch for it here. This is a great thing for you to talk to the people in your church about, or the people in your community about, because they need volunteers like crazy. And it's a good way. It's a good way to find something. And yeah, did somebody else have a question? Okay. Well, this time we're going to move on to our committee reports. Bylaws did not meet, so we will not have a report from them, nor did membership. But transportation, I'm going to go back to you, Welch, for transportation report.
All right. We did meet on Monday, and we had several things to cover. I shared some information on the Transportation Modernization Act, which it's something that was signed by our, oh dear, I've lost my words, by Governor Bill Lee back in April. That is it. I shared the information. It's choice lanes, not toll roads. And I shared some website information and a YouTube 3-minute overview of what that means. And we discussed possibly inviting somebody from the Tennessee Department of Transportation to come talk to us and give us a little more insight and information regarding that, because it is confusing once you see it out there advertised and you see it in the media. What is this? What does this mean for us? So I'm going to get in contact with that gentleman from TDOT. If you go to that website, it's called Tennessee Build With Us. You can just do a search. There's videos, there's presentations, and general resources there. But if you do a search on Tennessee Build With Us, it's tennessee.gov, TDOT Build With Us, and you can find more information there. We talked about Greyhound. There is no current updates on Greyhound that I'm aware of. City officials are still working with them, but right now there's no updates that I'm aware of. And number 3, I shared some information on accessible trails in the Smoky Mountains in a partnership with Catalyst Sports. They're going to offer this summer 3 adaptive adventure programs in July, August, and September. And you do have to register for those, where they'll have adequate equipment and volunteers to help out at those places. So it's 1 biking and 2 hiking programs for off-road wheelchairs and adaptive mountain bikes. So you can check that out at catalystsports.org. And someone also shared that there's also adaptive sports at Sharps Ridge once a month. So accessible, making the parks accessible for visitors of all abilities. And then our main thing that we covered and talked about was CAT Reimagined. They have been working on a draft plan to make some changes on their network, and they have going to amend that draft plan because they went to the public and had some public meetings, several meetings, and they're going to amend it due to some of the feedback from the public, that because they were going to take away they have rearranged and taken away some things, some routes, but they will be adding a Route 23 that will serve Broadway Towers and O'Connor Senior Center, and that will be called New Route 23. And at their the Knoxville Transit Authority meeting on July the 27th at 3:00, it will be a public hearing to go over that amended draft plan. And it's open to the public, but it will be considered a public hearing to talk about that new amended draft plan.
Barbara here, Welch.
Yes.
Mayor Kincannon has something to offer.
I just saw that. So go ahead, Miss Mayor.
Kincannon here. Thank you for all the updates, Nancy. I just wanted to provide some additional context on the CAT Reimagined effort. It's been a really positive effort, and I guess, Nancy, are you the representative on Codi for the KTA board?
I am not. Joel Simmons sits on the KTA board.
Okay. Well, anyhow, I appreciate his participation and that board as a whole. We've had an outside consultant help us try to reimagine CAT so we have a balance between coverage and frequency. Because right now we have, I mean, you know, insofar as we're really focused more on coverage so that the routes go a lot of places, but you know, a lot of lines, it's like once an hour. And that's of limited utility to many people. And so even though the coverage, so it wasn't just like, oh, the mayor thinks we need more of this and less of that. I'm not a frequent bus rider. I ride the bus from time to time, but I wanted to hear from frequent riders what they need and what they value. And of course, people want everything. You know, they want maximum coverage and frequency. But given budget limitations, we listened, and the consultants sort of put it through their systems and came up with some proposals. And then we took it back out to the community, got some more feedback, and so now there will be some changes to routes, and some people might be a little further away from a stop, but the trade-off is more frequency. So we're going to have more routes that are every 15 minutes, maybe even every 15 minutes all day. And sometimes, that'll also mean that we can focus our bus stop infrastructure on fewer routes. So we don't, I mean, I know we have still many stops that are not accessible for anybody. They're just the size of the road in a ditch sometimes, and that's not okay. So better to have maybe fewer stops, but make them extra safe and with benches and coverage from the elements and shade from the heat of the sun and all those things. So those are the types of trade-offs we're considering, and I think the people who've been part of this, on the committee and in the community who's participated, have helped shape a really community-driven plan, recognizing that everything has trade-offs. So thank you for those of you who provided some input. There is that public hearing on the 27th, you said?
Yes.
Yeah. And just so you know, even once this is, moves forward, the full the implementation wouldn't happen until, I believe, a year from now. Because CAT doesn't like to do anything too fast because, it affects people's lives getting around. So whatever the changes are, there'll be a lot of notice.
Thank you, Mayor Kincannon. And I would just remind everybody, even though it's an amended draft plan, it's not a final. So there's more discussion on making a final. So like Mayor Kincannon mentioned, they also have mentioned there's going to have to be some pedestrian infrastructure and things changed to brought on the forefront to fixing some stuff too. So they're aware of that. that they need to make those changes. So that's what we discussed at our transportation committee on Monday.
All right, Barbara here. Thank you very much, Nancy. Moving on, livability did not meet. However, universal design is, so I'm going to throw it over to Simmons for that report.
This is Simmons here. With universal design, yeah, since I've been around, we talked about throwing around an idea of dinner and design, trying to hold some sort of dinner with a nice piece of chicken, some pilaf rice, and try to educate the builders on universal design. Well, I've been out to at least 3 home shows and just rode around and talked to people that are in the building business. And I'm of the position when people that I've talked to and people that I know builders, they know what they might not know universal design by its name, but they understand the 36-inch doors, no step in, a bathroom that wheelchairs can get in. We discussed it multiple times. I'm sure the mayor will concur on this. The market's going to be what's going to have to dictate the change. You do not want to go in and start throwing codes at people. And I said from the beginning, your builders have got 5 or 6 floor plans and they're selling everything they're building. And until something like that changes, so my idea, and I think we all agreed on it, rather than throw a bunch of money out there, invite somebody to come out at 3 to 5 o'clock, we've got the home builders of Greater Knoxville that have hundreds of builders that are a member of that. They meet periodically, and then realtors have a similar that. Rather than try to spend money and do it, let's try to, we want to get invited to one of these meetings, and rather than go in going, hey, here's what we think, ask them what they're seeing in the market. See what the market's. Now, I granted, when you go to these builders, affordable, accessible isn't really their cup of tea at this point. I think affordable, accessible will fall more into an apartment. But as far as with the builders, we're kind of the impression, let's see if we can't get an invite to the table and then just ask them what they're seeing, tell them what we're hearing and what they're seeing. The realtors probably can give us a better idea of what people that are calling in from out of state. We know that, there's 10,000 baby boomers turning 65 every day. We know that a lot of these people are moving to Knoxville because of a lot of things. We got a nice city, we've got parks, we got lakes, the taxes, and still the housing and all. But I'm kind of, and I think everybody else, this isn't something you can ram down somebody's throat. I believe this is something the market's going to do. And if we can find a better way to mine intel on what they're seeing, I think that would help us from our end.
Barbara here. Thanks, Joel. Anything else, Joel? That's the first time you haven't said I'm your huckleberry. I thought maybe you had something else.
They told me the mayor was going to be here. I'm trying to be on the best behavior. Usually it's when something bad. Usually when y'all looking for somebody to do something nefarious, that's when I'm your huckleberry.
All right, we're going to move on then to new business. And so for this portion of the meeting, I'm going to turn it over to Zubak.
Thank you so much, Barbara. Okay, so for new business, first of all, the Codi Mayoral Candidates Forum will be on Wednesday, August 2nd in the large assembly room of the City County building from 5:30 until 7 o'clock. Right now, I do have interpreters scheduled to get there at 5:15. Please make plans to attend that very important forum and invite your disability contacts, friends, and families to attend as well. The flyer has been sent out to all Codi members, and I encourage you to share it with whomever you would like to have attend that forum. Like I said, I have already scheduled ASL interpreters, and I will also be scheduling CART transcription as well. The event, like last time, will be recorded and live streamed by KCM, Knoxville Community Media, and the transcription will be up on the website shortly after it airs. What I would like to do before we continue discussing this is quickly go around and ask all of our members if you know right now that you are able to attend, so I can go ahead and start logging that. Alexander. Barber.
I'll be there.
Perfect. Carter,
Currently unmuted. Alt plus A button. I'll be there.
thank you. Childress,
Sorry about that. Yes, I'll be there.
thank you. Lowe,
Yes, I'll be there.
thank you. Maxwell, Matheson,
Yes, ma'am, I should be there.
thank you. Mull,
Yes, I will be there.
thank you. Robertson,
Yes, I will be there.
thank you. Shimon Orr,
One second. Robertson has a comment and I need to get him pinned so I can see him. I can just come for a short time, maybe 1 hour. Is that okay?
that is absolutely wonderful. I'd like to have you there for as long as we can get you, even if it's not the entire time.
Absolutely. I know that. Thank you.
Shimon Orr,
Yes, I will be there.
thank you. Simmons,
I'll be there.
thank you. Spangler,
Yes, ma'am, I'll be there.
thank you. Welch,
Yes, I'll be there.
thank you. Alexander and Maxwell. Okay, they might have had to step away. Okay. All right. So once we discuss the mayoral forum questions, which we will get to in just a few moments, and they are approved by Codi, which we will need to do at this meeting, we will need to have both Housing and Neighborhoods Department as well as AARP weigh in on the questions. And all of this needs to be fully completed so that I can send them out to our candidates no later than July 19th. Because the forum will be taking place in early August, I would like to revisit the possibility of continuing with a full day retreat on August 18th, rather than pushing it out to September and doing just an in-person August meeting on August 9th, as was motioned for and approved during the June meeting. Would anyone like to discuss this or make a motion either way?
Barbara here, real quick. Thank you so much, Mayor Kincannon, for joining us today. It's been a pleasure to have you. Have a great day.
Thank you all. I'll see you at the forum.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, Barbara, again, Zubak, can you summarize that question again for us one more time about what were the options that are on the table?
Absolutely. During our last Codi meeting in June, we did not yet have the date for the mayoral forum, and we thought that it was going to be a little bit later than it turned out. Instead of being towards the end of August, it's now going to be on the 2nd. Because everybody thought that it was going to take place near the time that the retreat was scheduled, which is August 18th, everyone had voted and approved moving the retreat to September and instead holding an in-person August meeting on August 9th, as we typically would the second Wednesday. What I would like to do is revisit that now that we know that the mayoral forum will be August 2nd.
Great. And Barbara here, and your recommendation, Zubak, is what?
To have the Codi members discuss it and do whatever is voted upon.
This is low. So with the full day retreat, that's 9 to 4.
I believe it is. I would have to look back through my at my email for that, or if I can find the agenda, give me 1 second.
Oh, yeah, it's probably on there.
Yes, 9 to 4 at the Public Works Building. I have not yet canceled that.
That would work for me. So do I need to make a motion to accept the full day retreat on August 18th?
Yes.
Okay, I'll do that.
We will need a second on that motion.
This is
I'll
Spangler.
second.
I'll second.
Yeah, we got a second from Spangler.
Thank you.
And so at this time, for Codi members, we will vote on rescheduling the previous commitment and instead having a full day retreat on August 18th. So do we need to roll call this, or do you just want to do?
Well, since I've got my vote tally sheet, I'll go ahead and roll call it. Alexander? Barber?
Alexander's here.
Hi, Alexander.
I vote yes.
Okay, while I've got you, will you be able to attend the August 2nd mayoral forum from 5:30 to 7 in the large assembly room of the City County building?
I will be on vacation that week.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Now back to voting on the August 18th date. Barber?
Yes.
Thank you. Carter?
Yes.
Thank you. Childress?
Yes.
Thank you. Lowe?
Yes.
Thank you. Maxwell? Matheson?
Yay.
Thank you. Mull?
Yes.
Thank you. Robertson?
Yes.
Thank you. Shimon Orr?
Robertson has a comment. Yes, but all day, I'm not sure. I might have a different kind of commitment. I'm not sure if I could do the all day thing.
Okay. No worries. Like with the forum, we'd rather have you there for part of the time than not at all.
All right.
All right. Shimon Orr?
Yes.
Thank you. Simmons?
I'll chisel it in jello.
All right. Spangler?
Yes.
Simmons, I see now that the mayor has left. You're no longer on your best behavior. Welch?
Yes, I'll be there.
Thank you. All right. Maxwell, are you back with us? Okay, it doesn't look like she is. However, we do have quorum, so the motion passes. Okay. One more portion of new business before we start discussing the mayoral forum questions. Due to the overwhelming response from both current and former Codi members who would like to celebrate the lifetime award that Stephanie Cook will be receiving at Disability Resource Center's 33rd ADA anniversary celebration, we will not only have one table reserved for the Housing and Neighborhoods Department paid for by that department, but we will also have 2 tables reserved for Codi members that day. And this will also be paid for. So I no longer need to collect money from any of the Codi members. And Spangler, I do see your hand up.
Oh, I just want to make sure I wasn't on mute. Is the thing, our retreat, they serve lunch and stuff, don't they?
Yes, if it's an all-day retreat, we will need to get that approved. But we should be serving a lunch at least.
Can I just make a suggestion that maybe we utilize the CARM catering? Because all the money that they have their own catering program, and all the money that they make goes back in to it. It's called Harvest Bounty. I've got all the information on it somewhere I can send to you. But everything that they collect, they put back into CARM to train homeless people with job skills. We use them a lot with KAEC, and they do a really good job. The guy that is a chef for them used to be a chef at Regus.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Spangler. If you would not mind, if you will send that to me and CC Stephanie, I'd really appreciate it.
Absolutely. They're really good and they're very affordable. He'll work with you. They come in and set everything up. And they can do like box lunches or a buffet or whatever you guys decide on. I just wanted to recommend that we use them. I think it's a good program.
Okay, wonderful. And for all of our members, once we do decide on a food option, I will get in touch with you as a group and ask you to respond back to me to let me know if you do have any dietary restrictions, such as gluten-free or need a vegetarian option. Okay, so on to our mayoral forum questions. I am going to go ahead and share my screen so that we can go through these one by one. All right, can everybody see that? All right, I see Barbara giving me the thumbs up. And give me a thumbs up if you can still see me because it just told me my Zoom quit. Okay, perfect. All right. So on question.
Oh.
Now we lost you, Misha. Barbara here. This is the part where I do a little dog and pony tap dance. While we wait on Misha to get back on. Looks like there she is.
I'm sorry about that. Apparently, the pop-up.
Hey, log back off, Misha. I want to see the dog and pony tap dance.
Oh, I apologize about that. Let me go ahead and do the screen share one more time. Okay, so everybody can see that again, correct? All right, thank you. If you all do want to look over this and discuss it, for the first question, there were no suggested edits. You can see the ranking in column C as well as the question in column B. It was unanimously approved. So unless there's any discussion on question 1 or any comments on it, I believe that question can go ahead and be approved by the Codi body. All right, I'm going to do another roll call. Alexander.
Yep, present.
Question 1 approved.
Approved, yes.
All right. Barber.
Approved.
Carter. Nancy Carter.
Yes, approved.
Okay. George Childress.
Yes.
Lowe.
Yes.
All right. Maxwell. Matheson.
Approve.
Thank you.
All right.
Small.
Approved.
Robertson. Paul Robertson.
Approve.
Thank you.
Interpreter here. My mute was on.
No worries. Shimon Orr. She may have stepped away. Simmons.
Approved.
Spangler.
Approved.
Welch.
Approved, yes.
All right. All right, wonderful. It looks like it passed with 11 votes. Question 2, I will scroll down to this. The only suggested edit was from Ashley Wells Ajinkya. And I'll let everybody look over that for a moment.
Amisha, can you scroll back left? That's just for whatever reason it's cut off on my page. Yeah, right there. Well, where you had it a second ago was perfect.
Okay, I haven't actually moved anything.
That's weird. It's shifting on my screen. Right now it's great, but then for some reason it switches and clips it. So I don't know, maybe if you zoomed out a little bit, perhaps. I don't know.
Is anybody but the chair having a problem with this?
I can pull it up on my own screen too.
I'm
So
playing with you, John.
Well, and this is Zubac. My Zoom was having issues, so it may be something related to my screen share, and I apologize if that's the case.
I can see the document, but I cannot read it.
yeah, it's like it's shifted over to one side.
All right, let me stop.
Now it's
this
great.
here.
Whatever you just did, it's great now.
I didn't do anything. I tell you what, let me stop the share and reshare. And I will tell this to go full screen on mine. Okay, can you see that now?
It's the same problem on mine, but I can pull it up individually if it's just.
I can see it, but again, the text size is too small for me anyway.
Got you.
Perfect, better.
Okay. And John, if you can't see the respondents, please do pull it up on your screen. If anybody other than Barber has an issue and cannot see who the respondent is, please let me know at any point. So for question 2, Ashley had suggested that are included. And I am trying to figure out right now where she wanted that added. Right there. So we would be striking in.
So just a Barbara here, just a grammatical fix.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I will do is go ahead and quickly go around and get the vote on doing the grammatical fix and then approving that question as is. And if everybody just wants to come off mute for a second, it might go a little bit faster. Alexander?
Yes.
Barber?
Yes.
Carter?
Yes.
Childress?
Yes.
Lowe?
Yes.
Maxwell? Matheson?
Yay.
Mull?
Yes.
Robertson?
Yes.
Thank you. Shimon Orr?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Simmons?
Yes.
Spangler?
Yes.
Welch?
Yes.
Thank you all. All right, question 3. The only suggested edit that we had on this, and everybody did approve it, was to ask for what specific actions they would take to encourage participation. So instead of how it reads now, it would say, how will your leadership as mayor encourage other departments and local businesses to support greater civic participation by residents of all ages and abilities? Let's see. Encourage specific action. Spangler, is that what you meant?
Sorry, I didn't realize I was on mute. I think maybe to ask for specific actions. I feel like politicians too often kind of dance around a question and they don't give you specifics.
Okay, how would you like that to be reworded?
Let's see, how your leadership.
Oh, sorry.
I was going to say you took it away.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. How your leadership as mayor encourage other departments. Maybe can you tell me what specific actions you would take as mayor to encourage other departments and local businesses to support greater civic participation and whatever else it said?
Yeah, say name three.
Yeah, something like that, just so something specific is named.
Right. Don't walk away from this. Give us some ideas.
Name 3 specific actions. We're going to need a discussion on this.
Oh, this is Robertson. I'm just letting you know that I have to leave.
Okay, thank you, Robertson.
Barbara here. I liked what Spangler said first, which is maybe just modify the beginning of the first question to include that. So in other words, what specific actions would you take as mayor to encourage, et cetera, et cetera? That just sort of simplifies the whole process.
Matheson, I agree with that one.
Okay. Okay, so do we want to, does anybody want to motion to vote on this as it appears on screen now?
What if we put a quantitative thing in the first beginning? Can you give us a couple specific ways of da-da-da?
So perhaps what specific actions with examples would you take as?
Actually, if you just stop the question mark and say, and what specific actions would you take? Yeah, can you, what specific actions would you take as a mayor to encourage by the, can you give us some examples?
There you go.
Would you please give us some examples? All right, does everyone like that? If we do, let's get a motion and a second to vote on this question.
Matheson, I make a motion we accept as newly written.
Okay.
Spangler, I second.
Matheson, Spangler. So question 3 amended. All right, I'm going around the roll call again. If everybody will unmute. Alexander. Barber.
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
Childress.
Yes.
Lowe.
Yes.
Matheson.
Yes.
Mall.
Yes.
Paul Robertson has left the meeting. Shimon Orr.
Yes.
Thank you. Simmons.
Yes.
Spangler.
Yes.
Welch.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Okay, so it looks like question 4, everybody did approve the question. However, there were suggested edits. Can everybody see those or should I read them out loud?
This is Cook. I've had my hand up for some time, so I'm just gonna interject, okay?
Okay, I'm sorry. I
No,
can't see
it's
that.
okay. It's okay. Lots of discussion, lots of good stuff going on. I just want us to be mindful that I'm sorry, I had to leave briefly to make a stop down the hallway, but then I came back. So I could have missed some of this discussion, but have you guys talked about the fact that once you all have narrowed these questions and edited them the way you want them, that we also are going to have to run this by our department and AARP?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Because I just wanted everybody to be aware that beautiful work you're doing on these questions, but it may be that one of them isn't there for the actual forum. I just wanted to make sure that was clear. Okay, I'll shut up now.
Okay. Any discussion on this question or the suggested edits? Carter, you had put that high importance to you are individuals with vision disabilities who face unique problems becoming employed, and that you feel there might need to be a separate question regarding this. Would you like to explain more about that?
Yes, sorry, I'm on the bus going home, so things are a little crazy. From my experience with my disability and those others with vision disabilities, it's a little more difficult many times obtaining jobs because of the fact that you do have a visual disability, which in nature is going to appear to disqualify you from jobs using computers or various positions. That's not necessarily true if a person has the proper training and the proper assistive technology. So I personally feel like a lot of times in the discussion of training, of job provided accessibility, that vision is something that's not necessarily addressed. And as each disability has its unique challenges, vision does as well. And that's just the point that I'm trying to get across. And I'm hoping that the next mayor will look into specifically ways to improve that situation. And that's why I'm asking for some type of new question or some type of alteration.
This is Cook, excuse me. I think that is a great suggestion, Nancy. For folks here on this Zoom and in the meeting, we absolutely understand that certain disabilities not only have unique challenges, but maybe some additional challenges when it comes to being employed. But however, I do caution us, we really can't make this question that specific simply because that wouldn't really be fair to somebody with a hearing disability or a learning disability and the unique challenges that they would also face, if that makes sense. But also, I think if we get super specific, we won't really get any meaningful input from candidates because they won't know that detail, that level of detail, and they may just kind of freak out and skip it, if that makes sense.
It does.
Not to say that issue isn't important, because it absolutely is, but I think that is something definitely more under the umbrella of the Knoxville Area Employment Consortium and some of the work that they do. So if I just wanted to throw that out there because I'm trying to look at these questions as like bird's eye view issues we have to pick a couple of high touch topics, obviously housing, transportation, and these kinds of things. So I just wanted to toss that out there for folks to consider.
Yeah, good point.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that, and I agree.
Yeah, Barbara here. I agree with what Cook just said. Parliamentary procedure question. Am I allowed to make a motion, Misha? You're muted. You're muted. I couldn't hear you. You're still muted. No, you're not.
I said, I believe so. However, I'd like to defer to Cook on that.
Dead burn. This is when I should have gone to the bathroom. Okay, Cook here. Full disclosure. I don't think the chair can, but also full disclosure, I might be a smidge rusty on Robert's rules, and I've heard that they've been updated, so they may get a little more lax. Would you be comfortable asking a person to make a
This is Lo. Can I make a motion?
Yes, you may.
Okay, I'll make the motion for John Barber.
Yes, if I were I allowed to, I was going to move that we adopted the question as it's written.
Okay, I'll make that motion that he just said.
So Lo makes a motion to adopt question 4 as written. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'll second.
Okay, I had 3 people talking at once, I believe.
I heard Mole.
Okay, Mull seconds. All right, so question 4 as written, Alexander,
Yes.
Barber,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Childress,
Yes.
Lowe. Thank you. Matheson,
Yay.
Mull,
Yep.
Shimon Orr,
Yes.
Simmons,
Yes.
Spangler,
Yes.
Welch.
Yes.
Thank you all. Okay, question 5. So there were quite a few amendments in here. The first one was additional supports rather than additional support. So I believe that what she wanted was for it to say, in order to provide additional support, singular rather than plural. Another edit would be to specifically address hiring more staff and providing training for those with disabilities. And then a comment was, does Codi need to be spelled out in terms of Mayor's Council on Disability Issues? So if there can be a discussion, motion and second.
This is Cook. I love the idea, whoever suggested to spell Cody out, but at the point, what question are we on here, 4 or 5?
5.
If by question 5, these folks don't know who Cody is that's hosting this forum, I'm wondering. I mean, I know that sounds kind of facetious, but we're going to have Mayor's Council on Disability Issues, like mayoral forum. That's going to be at the top. I'm sure it'll probably be on the screen behind the candidate. So maybe it's okay just to leave it as the acronym throughout these questions and just have it spelled out at the top.
This is Eldridge. My recommendation, usually in a contract, you spell out the acronym to start. Say everybody knows what we're talking about, and then we're done. We should use acronyms going forward.
This is Simmons. I like the idea of if they can't figure it out, that's a good culling factor on where your vote goes. But by the time they get to question 5, they're looking around, and go, "Who's this Cody fella? Which one's he?"
Okay, so it looks like we are just looking at the other 2 edits at this point, which was right here, additional support rather than supports. And then Carter's suggestion would specifically like this question to address hiring more staff and providing training for those with disabilities. Discussion over the first one of changing supports to support.
This is Matheson. I say accept it without the S.
Okay. Go ahead and nod your head for me because we're not doing a vote right now, but please nod your head if you're in agreement. Okay, everybody says that I can see are nodding. So I am going to go ahead and modify that. There we go. And then we can go to Nancy Carter's suggested edits and you all can discuss that if you would like to.
I had suggested, Carter, I had suggested the training in there because once again, I'm going to bring it back to, I feel there needs to be more availability for people with disabilities for certain jobs. The only access we have now, especially the visual impaired, is through vocational rehabilitation. And I have to be quite frank, that's going somewhat okay, but with all services coming out of the Star Center, it's somewhat lacking in East Tennessee. So I would like to see something change there.
This is low. So could we add to the very last question, kind of like what it says, how are you going to ensure that our city makes more headway in supporting persons with disabilities through an expansion of disability services such as hiring more staff or providing training for those employed with disabilities? Would that work, Miss Nancy?
Yes, I think that's great.
This Barber here. I don't know. I kind of want to hear them answer the question without sort of handing them the answer we want to give. Does that make sense? I kind of like to know how they answer that question.
I'm sorry, I guess I'm not following you. Who answers that question?
The mayoral candidates. So like when we ask them, how are you going to ensure that our city makes more headway in supporting persons and disabilities through an expansion of disability services? Like
You want
without saying, here's the answer we want you to say, you know, does that make any sense? Anybody? Am I?
Yeah, I see what you're saying, John. Yeah, rather than say, hey, we had VR moved, or rather than spoon feeding them something that they can put a political spin on, just see how they answer the question.
I guess they would.
And then if there's an opportunity to interact with them, then maybe bring, I think it's good that we do point out what they should know with VR and everything switching over to Star. But yeah, I'm kind of like you. Let's see what you got to say instead of us taking what data we've got and giving it to you and letting you answer it that way. But I would like to see that addressed while we're there. I think it's a good point as far as the VR. If nobody brings it up, then we can call them out on it.
I do too. This is Carter. And I mean, I feel very strongly about this because I do not need training, of course, in other disability services. So I can't speak for that, but I can speak for the vision. And it was not the best. Years ago, vocational rehabilitation did bring me to this point where I'm ever so grateful for. But now the services are worse than they were. And I just, I think that's a very important issue.
Okay, so I heard lots of discussion, both for putting it in there as you see it highlighted on the screen, as well as for leaving it out. Either we can continue discussing this, or somebody can make a motion and a second for one way or another.
This is Carter. I would like the discussion to continue.
Thank you, Carter.
This is Eldridge. I think in the other setting, they call it leading, answering your question. You know, I mean, you're asking and answering in your question. You don't want to necessarily do that. You need them to kind of specify what you're talking about. You don't feed it to them.
This is Cook. I'll throw a new wrench out here. Our office is also responsible for guiding our ADA transition plan implementation. That's a couple of very key words that we may want to add into this particular question. Something like, I'm sorry, to me, it looks like it's on 0.223 font. I'm having a hard time reading the upper line, but over 300 visitors. One office. Well, okay, we have guiding cities' ADA compliance efforts there.
Okay, so I have a suggestion.
Okay.
A possible suggestion, and I'm just going to read it in its entirety as I would suggest. Knoxville's Disability Services Office serves over 300 residents and visitors with disabilities each year and is comprised of one full-time and one part-time employee. This office is responsible for providing information, addressing ADA complaints, guiding the city's ADA compliance efforts and the ADA transition plan, and providing city employee accommodation requests. Codi has long supported the expansion of this office in order to provide additional support and services to individuals with disabilities who live and visit Knoxville. With specific examples, how would you ensure that our city makes more headway in supporting persons with disabilities through an expansion of disability services?
Boom. I like it.
Barbara gives an additional boom. I like it.
Okay, I would like to make a motion to accept Zubek's version of that question.
I second or third the boom, wherever we are.
Second the motion, don't just second the boom.
Second the motion.
Thank you, Ms. Moll.
This is Spangler. While Misha's typing, I just had a question. Who's moderating this shindig?
I believe that is probably our chair, Barber, or if he doesn't want to.
Are you asking, will John ask all the questions? Sorry, this is Spangler again. Will John ask all the questions or?
You want me to call you up, Spangler?
No. No.
This is Cook. I believe it's been done a couple different ways. Seems like the very first one that was done, Sarah Helm was the chair. Shoot, I want to say she may have asked all the questions, but there was another one. When another one of these was done, the chair at the time was kind of back and forth. I don't mind doing it, but I would kind of like others, voice to be heard, face to be seen. So I think it's really up to you all. We will definitely need individuals to help with the flow, like we're gonna definitely need a timekeeper, somebody to alert the candidates, like in all the forums you've probably seen or heard of. You know, yellow means you got 1 minute, and then red means your mic is gonna be cut, you know, in like 5 seconds. To kind of just guide folks, keep them on time, because we want to be respectful not only of the candidates' time, but also the public. You know, we're saying we're going to discuss these very disability specific type topics within a finite period of time. So we want people to get there 5:30 and be able to leave at 7 instead of like some other public meetings that don't end until 10 p.m. or something like that.
This is Spangler. I think it would be impactful to have people, different people from Codi read a different question, just so that they can see, you know, the general public can see that Codi is made up of people with actual disabilities, and it, you know, we make actual impact.
I like that idea. I really do. Also, I can tell you that in the large and small assembly room in the last several years, the podiums where folks go to make their public comment, or if a director or somebody's giving a presentation, they are accessible. So there's a little button, you push it to raise it for somebody that's standing, you push it, lower it for a seated person. So again, I like the idea of that impact. But I'm not participating. I'm just an observer.
This is feedback. The only thing that I worry about if we have different Codi members doing that is twofold. First of all, at that point, we are going to have 19 different Codi members, 16 of which have been on here for a long time. And if we have more than the amount of questions that want to ask them, how do we choose? The other and the more important thing to me at the moment is timing of this. If we have a finite amount of time, and of course, the mayoral candidates are going to get a yellow card, a red card, but as happened last time, they may not stop when their red card does. And it's not like we can, you know, make them stop. There could also be technical glitches. And the time taken to switch members, have the podium adjusted, and all of that, I don't know if logically we have the time for that.
Good. This is good. Good point. Good point. Okay, so what we could do is our fearless chair Barber could be at the podium. He kicks us off, does the welcome, does the, you know, first question or whatever. And then when it's time for additional questions, whoever has agreed or signed up to ask those questions can be seated down on either side of the podium at the tables with the chairs, and there's microphones there. So then that would take away the need to get actually up and go to the podium and then come back. What do you think about that?
This is Spangler. Is there a mobile microphone? I know it's not called a mobile microphone, but you know, like one you can run around the audience with, like Phil Donahue. And
those are called handheld devices.
I think more logical.
Yes, there is a handheld mic, but there's 2 tables in the large assembly room on either side of the speaker's podium on the floor, and they each, I'm pretty certain, have a microphone at each chair, just like up on the dais. But even if they don't, I do know there's a handheld mic, and that we can get PBA to let us use that. Good point.
This is Simmons. I get it, Stacy. I understand. And I also see the need for streamlining this to depend on how many candidates are. So let's ask this. Is there somebody here that wants to ask a question? I have full confidence in John, as he does have a dog and pony tap dance that at a political thing, yeah, that might be something. But there again, if there's somebody that wants to speak, I by no means would want to stifle them. But for the purpose of this and moving it along, again, Stacy, I totally agree. It would be nice to showcase what the diversity we have here at Cody. But this isn't really somebody. This is trying to get the mayor's thing. So I think for the sake of time and all, unless if there's somebody that wants to speak now, and we'll work you into the program. How does that sound to everybody?
Misha?
I also have a suggestion if we are wanting to showcase several members and have diversity. However, we are trying to keep to this time crunch. We have a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary. We could let the three of them rotate as long as one of the other two that is not currently speaking is willing to hold up the yellow card and or red card during that time. Would that kind of be a good compromise?
I like it. This is Barbara.
Yeah, this is Spangler. I agree. That sounds fine to me.
Okay, we need to hear from our vice chair and secretary to see if they're willing.
This is Welch. I'm willing.
This is Low. I'm willing.
Okay. Can we get a motion and a vote on having the chair, vice chair, and secretary rotate for questions and yellow, red cards?
I will make a motion that the chair, vice chair, and secretary, is that right? Chair, vice chair, and secretary share the responsibility of holding up time cards and asking questions to the mayoral candidates.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it. Simmons.
Thank you, Simmons. All in favor?
Are we just all voting yes? Yes.
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 Any opposed?
Sorry, that was interpreter error. That was when everybody else is saying.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes. All right. Barbara, I'm only doing roll call for the questions. I believe that can be motioned as a group for that portion. Okay, so question 5, let's go back to that because everybody had said that they were good with it as it is now written. And I believe, Karen, were you the one who motioned for question 5? Okay. Who was my second for that?
Mull.
Thank you. Okay, question 5. Alexander.
Yes.
Barber.
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
Childress.
Yes.
Lowe.
Yes.
Matheson.
Yes.
Mull. Oh, Mull actually texted me that she will be right back. Shimon Orr.
Yes.
Thank you. Simmons.
Yes.
Spangler.
Yes.
Welch.
Yes.
Okay. Mull, are you back with us? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, motion still passes. All right, and on to question 6. Thank you all for bearing with us. I know this is a longer meeting. I appreciate it. Okay, so everybody on here pretty much had approved this. The only suggested edit was from Carter, stating that she feels this question also needs to specifically address vision issues as well. The question is, active leadership by persons with disabilities is necessary to ensure that any decisions made are made with these voices being present to identify how those decisions may impact our community. How will you engage individuals with disabilities to be included in key city leadership posts? Discussion.
Yes, this is Carter. Once again, I know that I keep inserting the vision card, and but I'm going to have to say I feel very strongly about it because no one else does. And I do realize that you try to be more broad-minded in questions, both in something like the forum coming up as well as other situations. But if it is not ever addressed, it is never going to be resolved, because it's not a disability where there are several of us out there, like on Codi, making a lot of noise. And that's just why I feel that way. I feel very strongly.
Okay, so I have made an edit. I have not actually put it into the question. However, to piggyback off what Carter says, if we are including those with visual disabilities specifically, I do not want to leave out other disabilities because I feel like that would be bad. So I do have including those with visual, hearing, and mobility disabilities. We can either put all of those in, and then if there are any that I've left out, also include those, or we can leave it general and leave all specificity out. Discussion.
This is Welch. I was going to suggest maybe say active leadership by persons with various disabilities, but I kind of like your idea.
This is Carter. I like your idea too, Misha, because once again, I'm going to reiterate, vision is not one that's out there and on the board and aware by many, many people. And I'm not opposed to including every single disability in there, but if it's not spoken out loud and it's just included in a group, it's really not ever going to become an awareness.
This is Barber, and I kind of feel like if you start listing them all, then there's really no point in listing any of them. And we're invariably going to miss someone. And so I could, sort of make the same argument for intellectual disabilities, which is not there. And I don't know. Again, I feel like we need to leave the question as is and let them answer it the way that they want to answer it.
Well, this is Carter. I will go with what everybody recommends. But like I said, I feel very strongly about it because people, candidates, when they're talking about disabilities, what pops into their mind a lot are amputees in wheelchairs or people that are with cognitive issues, because a lot of the Sullivan Awards were given, if not all, except for myself, to such individuals. But vision, if I didn't have a cane, you wouldn't have a clue that I had a visual disability. So people just don't see, they just don't see it. So I'm just going to leave it standing there.
This is Cook. How about this? In the beginning, at the head of the forum, every person present, Codi member, DSO staff, anybody present who's there has a stake in this. We need to introduce ourselves to the candidates. We would also ask the candidates, for a brief introduction of themselves to us and the public. But let's just go down the line. 19 Codi members. If there are 15 present, then all 15 will be given an opportunity, about 45-second introduction. Hi, my name is, I've been a Codi member since. I represent people who, boom, how is that? Because you might be representing somebody because you work at an agency. You might represent a particular disability because you live with that one, or you have a family or a friend that has that one. I think that is one way to, we've got disabilities on this body that run the gamut, and I think that would be very, very eye-opening to anybody up there on that dais to say, you know what, I do look out at this crowd of people. I see a couple of wheelchairs. I see somebody with a cane. I see somebody, that's using a sign language interpreter. But you don't know that a lot of the other people also have a disability. How's that? that kind of mediate the need to be specific for this particular group at this particular event?
Misha,
This is Carter, and I agree. I think that's wonderful.
Misha.
I have something to say about that, mostly because of our time limit of an hour and a half. We can do that. I'd like to keep it to 20 seconds. So if everybody can be really quick about, my name is, this is my disability, if you choose to do that. Also, it would not be, if we definitely want something about specific disabilities in here, and everybody would have to look at the bold and make sure that I did not leave anything out. And this will also be in alphabetical order if it's approved, so that not one is, above a different one. But we could make question 6. There are various types of disabilities, including hearing, intellectual, invisible, mobility, and visual disabilities, amongst others. Active leadership by persons with disabilities is necessary to ensure that any decisions made are made with these voices being present to identify how these decisions may impact our community. How will you engage individuals with disabilities to be included in key city leadership posts?
Barbara here. I like Misha's edit there a lot. As to Cook's idea, I'm just afraid that, knowing myself in particular, stopping at 20 seconds is, I'm a pretty good filibusterer. So I don't know that with a dozen to 19 of us there, I have a feeling that will go way longer than we intend and eat into our time. Whereas I think the edit on this question might scratch that itch.
This is Cook. I love all the suggestions and ideas shared. Okay, I'm gonna double down on just this one thing. Anybody who intends to be, let's just all do it, regardless, because something we may intend to go and something happened that day that we can't make it. Let's just all send Misha one paragraph that we would have used for our minute or so introduction. My name is Stephanie Cook. I have had a spinal cord injury in 87. I'm a user of a wheelchair, whatever. And then we hand that out. Who knows? Misha's so creative. She might even be able to put each of y'all's little headshots from the website next to you. And we can hand these out to all the candidates. And then they've got them there. So even for a quick reference, what do you think?
I love it.
I love it.
Nancy, are you comfortable with the way this question is positioned now?
I'm sorry, were you speaking to me? This is Carter.
Yes, Carter, this
Yes.
is Simmons. Are you comfortable with the way that number 6 is worded now?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Okay. Before we motion and second and all of that, everybody look at this real quick. I've got hearing, intellectual, invisible, mobility, and visual disabilities, amongst others. And I am hoping there is nothing that I've actually left out, which would be caught by the amongst others. If you know that there is something specific that is not on here, please tell me now.
Misha, this is Maul. What about developmental?
Intellectual kind of covers that, doesn't it?
How about mental? Sorry, this is Spangler. How about mental?
Mental, I was counting as an invisible disability.
Okay.
But if we want to specifically list that, go ahead and let me know. Where am I including?
This is Barbara. I know there's overlap between physical and mobility, but they are different. You can have a physical disability that does not impact your mobility.
Okay, there we go. So there are various types of disabilities, including developmental, hearing, intellectual, invisible, mobility, physical, and visual disabilities. If we're listing all of that, we might as well put mental health in here. And Barbara, good luck.
Yeah, I know, right? Okay, I'll practice. I'll give this one to Karen.
Okay. So unless there's any discussion, you all can either continue discussing it, making suggestions, or we can get a motion and second and take a vote.
This is Spangler. I will make a motion to have the question read with the changes that you made.
Thank you, Spangler. Is there a second?
I second. This is Carter.
Thank you, Carter. All right, everybody on mute. We're going to go through this fast. Alexander,
Yes.
Barber,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Childress,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
Matheson,
Yes.
Maul,
Yes.
Simon Orr,
Yes.
Simmons,
Yes.
Spangler,
Yes.
Welch.
Yes.
Thank you all. All right, on to question 7. Okay, so we do have 2 suggested edits. The question reads, living with a disability is very expensive, and the lack of accessible housing and aging compounds the problem. This can force individuals to live in institutional settings versus independent living within their communities. As mayor, how will you increase the percentage of accessible housing units required to address the systemic issue? Suggested edit number 1 is to add affordable when referring to housing, since disability expense is mentioned. And then says, does aging refer to the existing accessible housing? I do not believe that is how it was intended. I believe that it was intended, and Stephanie, back me up if I'm wrong here, or correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe it was intended when we're talking about disabilities as well as an aging population. Okay.
Yes. I said yes, and I heard myself out loud, and you probably heard me through the wall, but then I'm like, I'm on mute. Good grief.
I did hear you from the wall. So it looks like the suggested edit that was posited by Ajinkya is living with a disability is very expensive. Knoxville's lack of accessible housing and aging facilities compound the problem. But I believe that we should change that to aging population. Correct, Steph? And compounds the problem. So before we move on to anything else in there, would everybody like to replace what is listed below? Living with a disability is very expensive, and the lack of accessible housing and aging compounds the problem with living with a disability is very expensive. Knoxville's lack of accessible housing and aging population compounds the problem.
Barbara here. I think that's more clear. Yes.
Okay. Anybody not in agreement?
Could I ask for the interpreter? Could I ask you to repeat the edit, the sentence edited, please? Thank you.
Yes, and may I ask you a question as well? When I am going quickly through the roll call for votes, do I need to slow down for the interpreter?
Honestly, it is fast, but I'm keeping up, I think, fine as far as who's talking, because it's also you have visual, but I don't know. Monica, do you have a suggestion? Do you think it's fast? Can you catch everything? Oh yeah, everything's fine. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, we're fine.
The edit, I'll go ahead and read the original part and then the edit. Originally, living with a disability is very expensive, and the lack of accessible housing and aging compounds the problem. The edited way is living with a disability is very expensive. Knoxville's lack of accessible housing and aging population compounds the problem. Okay.
Mrs. Cook, may I suggest between the words and aging, how about and an aging population?
Okay. So everybody, it looks like, because I can see some nods, everybody thinks this is clear for the most part. Is there anybody online right now that does not want me to go ahead and switch that into the original question? Okay. That is done. Okay, so the next suggestion for question 7 is to add, how will you make it more affordable to individuals with disabilities? And then also Ajinkia had suggested that we add affordable in here. So it looks like what is meant is Knoxville's lack of accessible and affordable housing and an aging population compounds the problem. As mayor, how will you increase the percentage of accessible and affordable housing units? And I did not read the entire question. But there we go. Can everybody see that on screen?
Barbara here, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think that possibly answers Welch's question with her addition as well. But Nancy can answer that for herself.
Yes, I think it does. Now that since she did add, make it affordable, referring to housing, that does answer my question. So it pretty much adds that in there. So we were all thinking the same way.
Okay. Does anybody want to make a motion?
This is Welch. I make a motion to accept it with the amended changes.
Okay.
This is Simmons. I'll second it.
Thank you, Welch and Simmons. All right, we're going to do the roll call again. Alexander.
Yes.
Barber.
Yes, but hang on a second. Misha, Shimanor just posted in the chat. I just want to be sure that that concern is addressed.
Okay. Let me scroll up. I was so focused on sharing that I have missed a few messages.
Not too many. It's the very last comment from Monica.
Yeah, I'm watching the interpreter. I can't read everything that's on the screen. I can't do it at the same time. So I'll miss the interpreter if I'm looking at the screen or vice versa.
This question is for Monica. Are you okay with this vote in particular, or do we need to clarify what we're voting on?
I'm fine. I'm just making sure the interpreter can keep up and everything's good. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you. All right, carry on, Misha.
All right, Carter.
Yes.
Childress.
Yes.
Lowe. Matheson.
Yay.
Mall.
Yes.
Shimon Orr.
Yes.
Simmons.
Yes.
Spangler.
Yes.
Welch.
Yes.
And I believe that Lowe is no longer on here. Okay,
That's correct. She had to leave. And Simmons is about to leave too, so we might be.
No, I was asking, I mean, I'm kind of behind already, but if I leave, will we still have quorum? If we won't have quorum, I'll run it if we can get going through these last questions. I don't want to leave and it break quorum.
we should barely have quorum if you leave, but if we can get through these two questions really quickly, I would be very, very pleased.
Okay.
So question 8 says transportation options are a critical concern for thousands of individuals with disabilities and those aging in the Knoxville area. How will you address the lack of accessible cabs or Uber, lack of and compliance with accessible street parking, accessible sidewalks, bus stops and crosswalks, and the lack of accountability for access and emerging transit technologies? Nancy's comment was, is there a way to reword this question? There is a lot of information in one statement. And Carter says that she feels this question needs to specifically address the problem that exists with county transportation. However, I will mention that this is for the city of Knoxville mayor. So I'm not sure that the city of Knoxville mayor can address what will occur within the county. Stephanie, do you have anything to add to that portion?
Nope, I think you are spot on.
Okay. Since that is the case, Carter, are you okay with us not addressing the county since the city mayor can't speak for them?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Would anybody like to potentially throw out a rewording of this question?
This is Barber. I don't mind it the way it's written. I think it's okay.
Okay. We can have a discussion or we can have a motion.
I make a motion, we accept it the way it is then. So Simmons.
Thank you, Simmons. Do I have a second?
Spangler, second.
All right, roll call real quick. Alexander,
Yes.
Barber,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Childress,
Yeah.
Matheson,
Yes.
Mull,
Yes.
Jim and Orr,
Yes.
Simmons,
Yes.
Spangler,
Yes.
Welch.
Yes.
All right, awesome. Let's go to the last question, question 9. Homelessness is a term that goes a lot deeper than what is actually seen on the surface and is greater than just mental illness and addiction. Veterans, people with disabilities, victims of domestic violence, individuals with job loss, individuals not qualifying for services, opioid addiction, etc. How do you perceive homelessness in Knoxville, and how are you going to combat this issue during your term as mayor? Suggested edits include adding, how are you going to combat this issue during your term as mayor? Which does read better. And then the other edits would be to remove just from just mental illness and addiction, because it sounds dismissive of mental illness and addiction, and to also revise how are going to, again, how are you going? So I'm going to go ahead, since it is a grammatical error, and insert you in there. And then did we want to strike just from that to not sound dismissive?
A Barber here. I think striking that word is a good idea. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with John Simmons here. Yeah, just doesn't need to be in there.
All right. So I'm going to read it the way that it now is, and then if we can get a motion in a second and a vote. Homelessness is a term that goes a lot deeper than what is actually seen on the surface and is greater than mental illness and addiction. Veterans, persons with disabilities, victims of domestic violence, individuals with job loss, individuals not qualifying for services, opioid addiction, etc. How do you perceive homelessness in Knoxville, and how are you going to combat this issue during your term as mayor?
I think it sounds great. Thumbs up.
Would you like to make a motion?
Motion, yes.
All right, so Monica sounds great, and I believe that she made a motion to approve.
This is Childers. I'll second.
Okay. So motion by Shimon Orr, and I wrote down Children. Second by Childress. So question 9, vote. Alexander,
Yes.
Barber,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Childress,
Yes.
Matheson,
Yes.
Maul,
Yes.
Shimon Orr,
Yes, 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 yes.
Simmons,
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Spangler,
Yep.
and Welch.
Yes.
All right, so that concludes the voting. Please don't forget that we will need AARP as well as our department to weigh in on this. If there are any changes, it will be because of either one of those two. I appreciate everyone's input and thank you for approving these and staying so late. If anybody needs to log off, we are done with voting now. I don't know if there's any other new business. However, I do have 3 announcements, and then I believe unless there's public forum that we'll be adjourning here in a couple of minutes. Barbara, do you want to call for additional new business?
This is Barbara. At this time, I'm opening this for anyone with any other new business. Hearing none, we'll move on to announcements, and I'm going to turn it back over to Zubek.
All right, this is Zubak. Codi Grants Committee will be meeting on July 19th at 11:30 a.m. with Charles Lomax to discuss the possibility of partnering with Knox Area Urban League. Location is yet to be determined, and more information will be sent out to the ad hoc grant committee members soon. An additional announcement is August advocacy and information presentation will be by Codi member Kanya Mall, so stay tuned for that. And then last but not least for me, City of Knoxville's Neighborhood Resource Fair will be held on Saturday, August 12, 2023 at the Jacobs Building in Chilhowie Park, located at 3301 East Magnolia Avenue. The event will be from 8 o'clock a.m. to 12 noon. And Zubak, as well as Codi volunteers, Stacy Spangler and George Childress will be there. So please stop by if you're there.
Okay, and that concludes announcements. We're going to open this up to the public. So if anyone wants to join the public forum, now's your chance. Okay, hearing none there, I believe we're ready to adjourn. Yes, Misha? Thumbs
You
up.
want to get a motion in a second?
Yep, so at this time, I'm going to ask for, I think Monica wants to make a motion that we adjourn. Is that true?
Absolutely, yes.
We'll need a second on that.
This is Ma, I second.
Any opposed to adjourning at this time? Okay, it is 5:20. Thank you all so much for sticking around. Great meeting, everybody. Thank you for your contributions. You guys are awesome. Have a great day. We are adjourned.